All right, everyone. Welcome to the Left Wing. John and I are joined today by Tennessee Brando. How you doing today, my friend?
Man, I'm doing good. It's great to see you guys again.
It's fantastic. We love having you on. You're what do they call a friend of the show? I've been following Tennessee Brando, I think, for as long as I've been doing social media. I think I've been
Awesome.
following for like 2.5 years now, and his stuff is fantastic. What got you into this, by the way? What made you start?
Well, it's kind of interesting, man. I was a musician for over 25 years. That's what I did was play music, and there was a musician from Kentucky with the name of Tyler Childers, and he made an album called "Long Violent History" where he talked
Really
about
like
the
him.
police brutality.
Yeah.
And he put out a video with it called "A Message from Tyler," and so explaining the song and why he took the stance that he did. And people in my part of the world just came down on him and just crucifying him over it, saying he went woke and saying they was never going to go back to another show. And I sat down, man, and I just typed out a long-winded like Facebook post like about it, like why are you guys criticizing him for this, and why not at least hear him out? And then I said to myself, ain't nobody going to read this. I'm just going to backspace all. I backspaced it, let it go, and then I sat there and I thought, I really wanted to say that. I really wanted to make that point, and so I just sat down and made a video, which I had never done before. And I even think I might have even said that, like I usually don't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that video just blew up, and then I made another one, and it kept going, and pretty soon this is all I do now. So it was kind of by total accident I fell into it.
Yeah, it's easy to get trapped in the Ouroboros of content creation. You start and you just can't stop. It's like
once
it's addictive, right?
It is. It truly is.
Well, I'm sure from your perspective, you were like, "Why me?" When it blew up, because
absolutely.
We all had that reaction the first time something blew up, and we were like, "Wait a second, why does this happen to me?" I would argue, Tennessee, that the reason it's used because there is a dearth of people on our side of the aisle that look, sound, and talk like you. Like you look, just right now, if someone was to take a snapshot of this, they'd be like, "Oh, well, they got a Republican on there." But like, it's just because but that message coming from you resonates with a lot of people who probably don't. They shut off when they hear. I mean, I'm similarly, very coded.
I appreciate that.
You, but that's why it works, because coming from your voice, it just rings different to certain people.
Well, I really appreciate that, because I have had people say they've scrolled past my videos for a while before they actually stopped and listened. I don't take offense at that at all. Actually, what's funny, when I sit down and do that video, and this is just how I dress. I played a lot of backwoods dive bars in Tennessee, and it's just how I dress. And so I remember thinking to myself, do I need to change it up for this video? And then I thought, nah, I'm just me. I'm just going to sit down and do it. And then I have had a lot of people. I get messages to this day from people going, "Are you really for real? Is this an act? Is this a put?" I'm like, no, it's really me. I've been this way forever. It's just that, when you're playing music and in backwoods places in East Tennessee, you're not going to get on a political bullhorn when you've been hired to play music. You're not going to get up there on the stage and go off. So I never did. And I guess it did come as a left hook, no pun intended. I guess it did come as a left hook to people around here that was like, we used to see that guy singing Waylon Jennings covers in the bar, and now here he is. So
yeah, we definitely need day walkers. We always need those as part of the movement to kind of infiltrate this and push it forward. But so moving on to people who shouldn't make content, I would say, or shouldn't be involved in social media in any way at all. I'd like to talk about everyone's favorite billionaire, Elon Musk. Now, Brandon, I don't know if we ever talked about Elon Musk when you were on the show. Like, just before we get started, what's your opinion on Mr. Musk? You a big Musk guy? You a little soft on him? What do you think?
Not at all, man. I don't understand the fascination with the guy, to be honest. And I know so many people in my part of the world that just have this fascination with him, and I've never, to be honest with you, I've just never understood it.
Well, I guess I could understand it like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when everyone just thought he was the robot guy. He was the guy who made Teslas. He was the guy who was working with, space stuff before he had a public presence. I can kind of understand it then, but ever since he's, started opening his mouth, I don't really get it at all. So I don't know if you guys saw. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Oh, I don't know if you guys saw this the other day, but this really cracked me up in a dark way. But Elon Musk deletes a tweet promoting Tucker Carlson's interview with a Hitler-loving historian. And notice historians in quotes right there. And so he first tweeted out a tweet promoting Tucker Carlson's interview with a self-proclaimed historian who tried whitewashing the Holocaust. Carlson on Monday published a new episode of the Tucker Carlson Show, which it still exists on Twitter right now. I know you guys haven't seen it forever, but he's still cranking out content with podcaster Daryl Cooper. During their lengthy conversation, Cooper called Winston Churchill the chief villain of World War II and claimed the millions killed during the Holocaust were an unintended result of Germany taking prisoner of war without being prepared to do so. Now, I first ran across this because I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name is Seth Dillon. He's like the president or the CEO of the Babylon Bee. Not a cool guy by any stretch of the imagination. You know, a solid right winger through and through. And the tweet that he put out said, "Wow, never thought that I lived to see the day where Tucker Carlson became a Hitler apologist, yet here we are." It's like, man, really? I was like, you mean the day like 15 years ago when we all figured out that's exactly who Tucker Carlson was? But yeah. I was semi-pleasantly surprised to see the backlash he got from conservatives, that apparently there is a bridge too far for your average conservative who loves everything about Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson just happened to have someone on who said the stuff, you know, out loud and clearly that Tucker already believes and that Elon believes too. Let's be honest. And seeing the backlash against it. So to the extent that Elon was embarrassed and actually deleted it. What did you think about that? Did you run across it, Brandon?
This is the first time hearing about it. That does kind of surprise. Yeah, it really is. But no, I'm glad to see. I mean, I'm glad to see that there are, you know, like you said, the bridge that that can't be crossed. I would hope, you know, I've really sat back so many times, man, and really hope that when I've seen certain things, I'm like, come on, conservatives, be conservative here. Like, you know, come out and say something against this. You know, I don't want to jump the gun because I don't know what we're going to talk about. But, you know, with the whole, you know, John McCain comments, and his son recently came out and said he was going to be voting for Harris. You know, all the things that we've seen Trump do and insult veterans, you keep sitting back waiting to see if conservatives are ever going to come to bat for it. So, I mean, at least he deleted that. I'll give him that much anyway.
How about you, John? What are your thoughts when you ran across this?
So it's one of those examples of the, how do I put this? When I used to say this all the time on this show, that a lot of what conservatives take as these sources of truth, they catch on because there is a grain of truth that they're based on. And this historian feeds right into that because he says something that is at a certain level true, that Winston Churchill, kind of a dick.
John stole my point. God damn it.
For people who have no idea, like Winston Churchill, objectively a horrible person. He also hated Jewish people. He was very, very, he gave a lot of praise to fascists like Mussolini. Like, if he hadn't have fought Hitler for the pure reason of wanting England to not be, subservient to Germany, like, he would have agreed with a lot of his fucking points. And he's done a lot of bad things, especially when it comes to colonization in Africa. Like, very bad person. And so what this historian then does is he takes that truth and he twists it. And he starts saying things like, oh, really? Churchill was the main villain of World War II. Look at all of these bad things he did. Don't look over here at what Hitler did. He didn't mean to kill all of those people. He just wasn't adequately prepared for the war. And you slip in these far-right fascist Hitler apologist messages into this otherwise accurate assessment of Churchill, and that's how you get your fucking Nazi message in front of more mainstream audiences. And when you have someone like Elon Musk, who, I'm not going to say he doesn't care about content moderation. He does care about content moderation of content that annoys him. But he doesn't care about content moderation as like something that should be done for the public health. And he just platforms these people. Tucker kind of has to, because he's gone down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But like, Elon should know better, but he doesn't care. And it is telling that he actually deleted this one, because he hasn't deleted really bad shit that he's reposted in the past. This one, someone got to him. He was there like, hey, maybe not the Hitler apologist, and he actually listened. I wonder if he wanted to delete it or he was kicking and screaming. That's my biggest question.
Death kick scream for this guy. So I forgot to show what the tweet was right here. So this is what it was here, that Daryl Cooper was the guy that Tucker Carlson interviewed, and then Elon saw it, and then his classics, 3 and 4 word tweaks. Very interesting, worth watching. That both of those statements were lies. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't worth watching. But there was, although I do have a clip, so we can pull it up and show you guys. But John, that's what jumped out to me as well. That one thing that really bothered me about this was so much of the reaction was, how dare you say this about Winston Churchill? Like that's what you saw too. Yeah, that was a lion's share of the comments that I saw. So Winston Churchill is a hero. The man is a saint. And listen, I can't really blame them, most people, for thinking that, because that is what we were taught. That is what we were taught. You go to school, and so we have this unfortunate propensity to teach history as that great man theory of history. That's like, hey, this one person was so awesome that, by force of will alone, he changed the course of human nature. And that's not how history works. But we also have the tendency to put people in good person, bad person categories, and like it's a movie. And so, we have Hitler, so he's a bad person. So Churchill, his enemy, must have been a good person. And that's not the right way to look at this. You look at what the people did and what the consequences were. Like, whether they were personally motivated by good or evil is honestly inconsequential. But with Churchill, so people know about Hitler and the deaths that he caused by the millions. So did Churchill. And I wanted to pull this up, that Churchill's policy contributed to the 1943 Bengal famine. Now, famine is it ended up, if you see right here, it killed, 5 million people? 3 million people. And
whenever you're dealing with numbers like this and massive historical genocides, it could be 3 million. It could be 5 million.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's more than that. Right? Yeah. You can't know for sure. The point is big
it's numbers, a lot of people.
Absolutely terrible. Who fucking knows? But this guy's a monster.
Yeah, a lot of people. And Churchill Bengal was still under British subjugation at the time, and he was taking food away from the Bengalis while there was a famine going on to feed people in Britain. And when people asked him about that, I said, hey, that seems kind of immoral that you're taking their food to feed people halfway around the world while they're starving. And he said something to the effect of, I don't really care about those people and their beastly lifestyle and their like primitive religion and stuff. So he took a lot of pleasure in killing these people. And,
TJ, you whitewashed that.
How did it go? You remember the quote? How did it go?
I hate Indians. They are beastly people with a beastly religion.
There we go.
And he said it's the starvation was their fault for breeding like rabbits.
Oh God, yeah.
It is somehow worse than you remember.
Worse than my memory. Worse than my memory. My God. And so with I forget the guy's name. I'd never heard of this guy before that Tucker interviewed. Daryl Cooper. Yeah. So I wanted to play a clip from Tucker's show. I think it's the first time I've ever said that on this podcast. I can't remember ever saying anything like that, but let's see. This is what Elon Musk wanted us to check out. It was so good that he had to recommend it to everyone on Twitter. Let's see what he had to say.
Germany, look, they put themselves into a position, and Adolf Hitler is chiefly responsible for this, but his whole regime is responsible for it, that when they went into the East, in 1941, they launched a war where they were completely unprepared to deal with the millions and millions of prisoners of war, of local political prisoners and so forth that they were going to have to handle. They went in with no plan for that. And they just threw these people into camps, and millions of people ended up dead there. You have like letters as early as July, August 1941 from commandants of these makeshift camps that they're setting up for these millions of people who are surrendering or people they're rounding up. And so it's 2 months after, a month or two after Barbarossa was launched. And they're writing back to the high command in Berlin saying, we can't feed these people. We don't have the food to feed these people. And one of them actually says, rather than wait for them all to slowly starve this winter, wouldn't it be more humane to just finish them off quickly now?
So
Wow.
Brandon, I want to go to you with this. Did you know that the Holocaust was merely a logistics problem? Did you know that? It was just, I don't know if you were aware of that, but that's the information that Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk want us all to know.
That's so crazy. What's funny now that you showed that, I did see where that Elon shared that, but I didn't click on it because he said to watch it. It was like when I saw that, but it was like he said this is interesting. It's like I don't want anything to do with it. But what's so hypocritical about Elon is if you remember when he was talking with Don Lemon, he made the argument that it was free speech, and he said that he wasn't going to, he said as long as if it's something they're saying that's illegal, we'll remove it. But he said it's not illegal. He's like, hate speech is not illegal. He made that argument. But I don't know if you're familiar with a left-leaning creator named Destiny, but he made some controversial remarks. I didn't really agree with him, but when the assassination attempt happened on Trump, he came out and basically said, I don't care. I wish, and was pretty brutal about it. So Elon demonetized him and said that wasn't suitable for all ads. And I was like, well, wait a minute. If you're going to let stuff like that remain on your channel, that kind of hate speech, what's the difference? Because he made the argument that unpopular speech was free speech. Well, I mean, I could argue the same on Destiny. It's like, yeah, it might have been popular, but he's definitely got a double standard there.
Well, September 5th, 6:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Elon Musk was hypocritical. We got to note that time and say, that knocked me over with a feather. I don't know. That was kind of wild. Holy shit. Go ahead, John.
It's funny because his whole free speech thing really, I mean, we know it's hypocritical, but it doesn't defend against active platforming. Like, you can say, hey, everyone's allowed on Twitter. And you know what? I can see arguments for that, reasonable arguments for just total free speech anarchy. I think there's problems with that, but I get there's a reasonable argument to be made. But specifically using your platform to put on a Hitler apologist and tweet out to billions of people, hey, watch this guy. Yeah, that's a different thing. That's not just laissez-faire. That's you saying this is what's interesting. This is what I care about. And it is such like Elon Musk. I swear to God, it's almost like let's assume there is a God, right? And he's been trying to send us messages about how rich people aren't rich because they're so much smarter and better than us. They're actually quite dumb sometimes. When right-wingers advocate for free speech, they don't actually mean free speech. They just want to say they're crazy fucking fascist Hitler apologia shit. But God was like, they're not getting it. So I'm going to send Elon Musk to give the perfect example of what I'm trying to say. And still, there's millions of sycophants out there who'll jump in front of a bullet for this guy. And I don't get it. Like, I can't imagine still in the year 2024 being like, yeah, Elon, that's the guy that I want to die on that hill. It just doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't.
Yeah, it's kind of a first principles thing. You know how all human emotions and all human beliefs are at their core irrational, that if you go deep down the rabbit hole enough, like the example we talk about is, why is murder illegal? It's like, well, because murder harms human society. Well, what's so good about human society? What's so good about human life? What's so good about life in general? Eventually you get down to an irrational principle that I don't like it. And that's every human belief. But some are a little more irrational than others. And this whole belief that rich people are our betters, that, like for whatever reason, that they're actually smarter and more talented than we are, or they have the divine right of kings. God has looked down and chosen to bless them. It's one of those two things, and conservatives can't break away from it. They just can't.
Which is ironically exactly what Winston Churchill believed.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is like, whenever people talk about conservatism and everything, most people trace modern conservatism back to William F. Buckley. That's kind of what they would go to. You can go back to what's his name? Well, never. This point would have made a lot more sense if I could remember the guy's name. But he was arguing for monarchy, or how the aristocracy actually knows what they're doing. But this thing with Elon Musk is like, they can't break away. It's why Donald Trump.
You talking about Machiavelli?
No. Fuck. I'll have to look it up when one of you other guys are talking. But one of the that's why Trump was destined to win that first primary in 2015, 2016. He had the most money. And the way the system is, the more money you have, the better person you are. And that why would you follow anyone else as long as Donald Trump had more money? And they feel the same way about Elon Musk. Additionally, John, also Brandon, yesterday John and I were talking about Kirsten Sinema and what a enigma she's been over the last few years, and how her term is ending. She's not going to be reelected. And I sent out an open invitation for her to come on the show, not to be antagonistic, is that we just want to talk. We just want to talk. I feel the same way about God. God, if you can hear this, like I just want you to come down. We just have some questions. We want to know like why you set this up the way you set it up. You know, who am I to question you? But I do it every day anyway, so you might as well face me, you coward. Just come down here and let me know what you got planned here. But the thing about right-wing media, and we'll get into a little bit later with another episode we got planned, is that this is what I was thinking before the show, guys, that it's really unfortunate that right-wing media in particular, there is a massive benefit to you financially and a benefit to your clout to be as awful of a human being as you possibly can. You say as many slurs as you can, you be as sociopathic as you can, and there's a shitload of money in it for you. And I don't know how to solve that problem. I really don't. Like John, you deal with these folks all the time. Have you thought about a way to get around this?
No, because you're right. It is like it's like a badge of honor. Like we talk on the left how we have like purity tests, and they have the exact opposite of that, where like they have a impurity test. The more raucous, the more insensitive, the more hurtful that you can be with your words, the more you are sticking to their core values in a way. And it's fundamentally, I don't think it's fundamentally like a bad thing necessarily, because there's always going to be a group of people that believe that the problem isn't that people who like that exist, because you know we've all been middle school boys, you know, like there's always going to be demand for that shock jock kind of content. Yeah. The problem here specifically that Elon Musk so brilliantly symbolizes is that when that person controls the algorithm, it spreads like fucking wildfire. I shouldn't have to know who Daryl Cooper is. I should not have to know his name. I should have never heard of him. And yet he's now been platformed to millions and millions of people who would not have heard of him otherwise, because Elon Musk controls the algorithm and literally can just tweet that out. And there's, people argue, oh, well, if he's so wrong, then he'll be defeated in the free marketplace of ideas. And no, because people who are idiots will listen to him and think he's right, whether he is or not. And those people would not have otherwise heard him and heard these ideas that are very dangerous if he had not been platformed. And that's the problem. I'm all for like legitimate good faith debate and the free marketplace of ideas. I will smash your little product to bits if you want. But platforming Nazi apologists, it should just be obviously don't do that. And because there's nothing to be gained from that. We already saw what that argument does. Like we already saw the results of platforming Nazis. It's not a good idea. And so just don't. And the world will be a better place. We don't need to have this argument again. We've already had it. It's over. The ideas have been defeated, but they can rise again, and we don't want them to.
Yeah.
I want to add to that, but before I do, I want to acknowledge something in the comments here. So while you were talking, John, I remembered it was Edmund Burke, who was the father of modern conservatism, and I wrote in the comments, but I didn't notice that the Dirty Bubble had already wrote it there, and so then he commented, "Oh, why did I think of that? I wasn't trying to clown on you." I'm sorry, I didn't. And it's funny, I put it like in like an exclamation mark. Aha! It's Edmund Burke when it was already right there. It's been very funny. It's just very funny, but I appreciate it. But yeah, Edmund Burke is the one who argued that like the fall of the aristocracy in Western Europe was a bad thing because look at these slack-jawed peasants and merchants. They couldn't possibly handle the weight of knowing about world economic affairs, and which is essentially what conservatives believe. Like they believe that in no uncertain terms, like a nobility class should be the ones who rule all this. But Brandon, I want to ask you about this. What John said about I always refer to conservatives' appeal to free speech as just the coward's last refuge. They do it all the time. Like they resort to according to the First Amendment, I have the legal right to say this, so you can't complain, as if that's what the First Amendment is. And even when they try to use it to solve problems, like John was mentioning, they've been complaining about certain content being taken off of social media. Like, well, you guys are capitalists, right? This is what you want. Like, you want the person in charge of this to run the show. That's your plan. And their only way to solve it is for the right billionaire to take charge, which is what happened with Elon Musk. And I don't know if you guys have seen Twitter lately. It is falling apart. Like, Elon is begging people to advertise on it. He's losing money left and right. He's essentially just fucking around now. Now he's just like, well, I own this thing and no one can stop me from being a white supremacist, so I'm going to keep doing that. Do you run across this free speech whining every now and then?
All the time, actually. Mm-hmm. It's something I see so much of, and I just think they don't have an understanding of what free speech is. It's one thing, you're free to say what you want to say, but that doesn't mean that you're free from accountability. I mean, you people can call you out over what you said and disagree with you. And going back to something you said about their message being so cruel, for a long time, I caught myself saying they're giving Trump a pass for this. I caught myself saying that a lot. And then one day I realized, no, it's not that they're giving him a pass for the things that he's done. They love him for doing those things. That's why they cheer him on. And the more cruel and more hateful he gets, they cheer that on and then sit back and cry. If they get kicked off of a platform somewhere, they sit back and cry that their free speech was trampled on. And I just don't buy into that at all. I think, again, when you have a platform, Elon Musk says he bought Twitter to make it a digital town square where everyone can come and express their ideas. But like you said, he platforms white supremacists. He's platforming Nazis and defending that. And meanwhile, we'll find any excuse he can to silence someone that disagrees with him. So it's not really about free speech to them. It's just about being a bully, in my opinion. And using the First Amendment as a way to justify themselves.
Hard agree. Good stuff. All right, it's a good cut right there. I wanted to play another clip. It was only like sorta related to what we were talking about, so I was waiting for it. But I don't know if either of you saw, there was this Israeli podcast host talking about Gaza a couple of days ago and his thoughts on it, and it's ungood. But since we're talking about genocidal language right here, I can't remember the guy's name. I don't think it's on the thing here, but let's see. But this is just example. I don't know, 500 that podcast. Oh, did we lose John?
Looks like I don't.
Oh, well, John's going to want to hear this. Okay, hold on. Let me wait for him to get back on. I hope I didn't kick him off. I hope I didn't do that on accident. But all right, let's go through some comments here. Apparently, Trump lost. Did you guys hear this? So I don't know if Clint's still on. I think he made that comment about half an hour ago. But I saw something about Trump admitting he lost. I saw a couple of days. I saw him say something that he lost by a whisker. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. Yeah, that guy. Trump lost what? Oh,
yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I did see that where he said that he lost by a whisker. I saw that. There has to be that moment. We'll probably never get lucky enough to hear it, but there has to be that moment behind closed doors where he was admitting that he lost. And like there just has to be that moment where I picture it being like, how are we going to spin this? How are we going to turn this around? Because he had to have known. There's no way.
He knows. Yeah,
he does.
I can see maybe him being delusional enough to think he actually won the night or something, but especially when you hear like the depositions and stuff for January 6th, and like Bill Barr was telling him he lost, like all his lawyers, Mike Pence, like everyone's like, no, man, there's nothing here, and then just going forward with it. I don't know how, but he sticks with it. But you know why he sticks with it? Because it works. Because it works. It works. It's just like you have Mike Lindell, who has been pushing this for 4 straight years. Like he's lost millions of dollars into this. And I saw something. I saw this video of this lady, and she was talking about how she believed that the election was stolen, that she believed that the courts would actually overrule all this. And the guy was telling her, well, there were 60 court cases. They lost all but one, and one was like a procedural issue. The Supreme Court rejected all this. And she's like, nope, I've got other evidence that you don't know about. You just don't know what's going on. And I remember thinking, is like, we're going to be dealing with this for the next 1 or 2 generations. Like that lady will die believing Donald Trump won that 2020 election, even though with everything we saw, Fox News having to pay nearly $1 billion in and it's not going to change. And so why would Trump change his mind on it? I don't know. It's wild.
It's going to go on forever, man. I really believe we're stuck with it for the rest of our lives. For sure. And the thing about Mike Lindell that I've thought so many times is you never see Trump ever go to bat and help any of these people. It's like when they lose, I think, even if they lose fighting for him, he just views them as a loser. It's like you never see him actually out there going to bat or trying to help Mike Lindell out at all. And there's people, like you said, I mean, I've seen it too, that always come back with, no, we have evidence that you didn't see. I think as long as we're around, we're going to have to deal with this. I think our grandkids will be dealing with it, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, see, John texted on, what did he say? His Wi-Fi just crashed. Oh, okay. Sorry about John. Yeah, it is kind of sad to see. All right. Well, we'll just continue on then. So this is a clip from an Israeli podcast host, and I'm just going to let the clip speak for itself. I don't need to really do a little preamble here.
So I would, if you gave me a button to just erase Gaza, every single living being in Gaza would no longer be living tomorrow, I would press it in a second. That's just, I think most Israelis,
if that's agree. The choice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, even if it's not like right now.
Yeah, no.
I would press it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the same with the territories.
I would press it right now.
Mm-hmm.
No choice. No, Sharon is safe at home. God willing, I don't know. I haven't spoken to her in like an hour.
No, I'm saying for the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would press it right now. Give me that button and press it right now.
There you go.
And I think most Israelis would.
Yeah. Most Jewish Israelis.
They wouldn't post. They wouldn't talk about it like I am.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't post. They wouldn't say I pressed it.
Yeah.
But they would.
They don't have balls of steel like you.
They would, but they would press it, right? Like if they were in a closet alone, they wouldn't even hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
Someone came to them and Hadar said, "No one will know. You press this, all the Palestinians are gone." You'd be like, "Fucking hey, is there another one?" So
Wow.
Oh, John just came back. Oh, John, did you catch that video?
Yes, I did. I know exactly what video you're talking about.
Okay, well, so we're gonna get Brandon's reaction first, since I don't think you'd seen it. Yeah, good, bad, indifferent. Like, what do we think about this, folks?
Man, I don't know what to say to that, honestly. It just goes to show that people will literally say anything, and I don't really have words for that. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, John, your thoughts on it?
It was so funny to me the way he talks, because he genuinely talks like every other fucking conservative nut job. Like, you obviously this is a particularly bad issue, right? Like, we're talking genocide.
Yeah.
But you hear him talk, it's the same fucking words that you hear like TERFs say, where it's like, I actually don't know the exact words you just played, but I'm assuming it's the same clip that I saw, where he's like, yeah, no, I would press that button in a heartbeat. Yep. And I know deep down, every single other Israeli would also press that button in a heartbeat. And it's like, the only way they can justify their clearly horrific inner desires is to just assume that everyone else believes that what they do, and they're just too afraid to say it. You can say this about Israel and Palestine. You can say this about trans people. You can say this about gay people. You can say this about poor people, the homeless, whatever you want to say. There's so many times where you hear conservatives say this, where it's like, yeah, no, obviously everyone would be okay with just sending all of the homeless people to jail. But, a lot of people just don't think that's polite to say. But if they, in a dark room and no one knew, they'd hit that button. No, they fucking wouldn't. No, they wouldn't, because they have basic human empathy. You can't understand that because you don't. And so you just assume that they must just be lying. But they're not. Most people, actually, newsflash, guys, wouldn't kill millions of people indiscriminately just because of their nationality. Crazy, I know, but that is the truth of the situation.
John, that is an excellent point. That is so
Yes.
good, because that is what conservatives say all the time. They say, like, I'm just saying what you don't have the courage to say. Deep down, I'm right about, marginalized group X, that, they're a problem and everything. That is an excellent point, because the callous and dismissive way he says it, like, yeah. And like he's like, I think this and everyone else thinks it too, but you put them in a dark room where no one would know, they would all commit a mass genocide, just like me, right? Right, fellas? Right? We all in on this? And it's wearing it like a badge of honor too. Like, everyone thinks that I'm just brave enough to say it. It's like, nah, man, you are just a psychopath. Like, that is just kind of fucked up. And that's kind of a hyper version of what we see a lot with conservative media.
Yeah.
Ben says it's like racist assuming everyone else is racist or biased toward their own race. Oh my God, I see that all the time, where they're just like, oh, you too would also want to see white people thrive. It's like, no, the fuck I wouldn't. Like, what are you talking about? It's everything, TJ. Every single conservative talking point boils down to that guy hitting the genocide button.
Yeah, and I think a lot of conservatives watch stuff like that, and they live vicariously through people like that. Back with when the whole thing with Kyle Rittenhouse happened, I was working in this little small factory at the time with like maybe 6 or 7 people in my room, and it was like the attitude toward it was like, he did what we had been set back on the couch wanting to do. That's pretty much the way they responded to that. And I think a lot of them, they cling to people like that, and those kind of answers, going back to what I said earlier about them just loving the cruelty and being all about it. I think they live vicariously through people like that. I really do.
I think Kyle Rittenhouse is the absolute best example of that. I remember making a video a while ago, and you know how you have like your Turning Point USA and CPAC venues and everything, where it's just essentially professional wrestling. They have all the dog and pony show and the pageantry and stagecraft associated with it.
Yeah.
And I saw one, and they just had the confetti, they had the fween, and they had the lights flashing and everything. And they just started chanting Kyle Rittenhouse. And then he came out, on stage like he was Hulk Hogan in 1989 or something. And I sat there and thought, there is one reason that man is famous. It's because he killed 2 people. Like that's it. Now, listen, if you want to be as charitable as possible with Kyle Rittenhouse and say, listen, I looked at the footage and I looked at the situation, and I think Kyle Rittenhouse did have the legal right to shoot those people in self-defense. Look, if they just said that, like if that was the conservative position, I'd be like, okay, all right. I mean, look, a judge agreed with you and the jury agreed with you. If that's your decision, fine. No, they don't stop there. It's like, not only do I believe he had the legal right to kill those people, I'm fucking glad he did it. I love it. I want people to do it more. I get hard thinking about it. I mean, they've made this kid into a celebrity, like a household name for positive reasons on their side. And they don't think about like the pathology of that and like, what that says about the movement. Like, I don't understand it. I really don't, because like if I did this, this is before I was even like made my full left turn. What was that guy's name? The American Sniper, Chris Kyle.
Chris Kyle.
Yeah, before I knew what a scumbag this guy was and everything. But it's like, man, I don't know if we really want to be celebrating someone whose claim to fame was having more sniping kills than anybody else. That's just feels kind of icky. And then it turns out he was even worse than we thought before. But yeah, the conservative movement, they love death more than we love life. It's a common thing with these folks.
It's absolutely true.
It's funny you said that, TJ, because I had the same reaction when watching American Sniper, where like it was before. Yeah, I was kind of just a normie liberal at the time. Yeah, but I was watching, and I was just like, like I'm enjoying the performance. Like it's overall well directed, but there's just something deeply icky about celebrating this guy for killing a bunch of people. And then I found out later that, he is just straight up a monster.
The worst.
It's funny how that often works out, isn't it?
Yeah, trust your suspicions on that. Were you going to say something, Brandon? I thought I cut you off there.
Oh, no, you're fine. I just think, it's so sad watching them cling to people like that. And that's the people they make out to be the heroes. And, you know, like I said with Rittenhouse, it's like they was sitting back. He did the thing that they all wanted to do.
Yes.
That they were sitting back. That's what it was, and they can't, like you said, they can't stop right there. You know, you could make the argument, okay, in that scenario, he had a right to defend himself. But I always go back to when I saw him walking down the street with that weapon in his hand with surgical gloves on. The first thought that went through my head is that a black kid wouldn't have made it that far with that.
No.
You know what I mean? And that's what really leaped off the page at me watching it, while everyone else is watching it from the angle of, oh, he went there to defend his town, or, you know, whatever. I'm like, no, not at all. It was, I'm looking at it from a different angle, thinking he would have never made it. The same thing I was thinking on January 6th when I watched them storm the Capitol. I'm just thinking, if this was black people, it would be a completely different reaction.
It is, and that is the thing to kind of follow up on all of that is, if Kyle Rittenhouse was someone worthy of praise, the reaction Kyle Rittenhouse would have been shame. Even if
true. Good point. Excellent point.
You know, even if you 100% believe that he was innocent. And you know what? I didn't fucking look at the legal case. Like, it really, you guys know I don't like fucking going into legal shit. But like, even if it's like, oh, he was in that situation, had the legal right to defend himself, cool. But that doesn't mean he was right to place himself in that situation. And someone who went through that experience, killed 2 people, who wouldn't be dead if not for his actions, and doesn't have any shame about that. That's not someone worth celebrating. And like, it's a 17-year-old kid, man. Like, it's like I think Kyle Rittenhouse himself is a victim in the entire saga, because these conservative talking points, these riots are burning down the cities, we got to defend these businesses and whatnot. It caused a 17-year-old kid to take a gun, go into a very dangerous situation, and put himself in danger with the capacity to use lethal force to get himself out of it. Yeah. And that decision resulted in the death of 2 people. Now, our legal system isn't equipped to deal with that, nor do I think it necessarily should factor in such a the Pandora's box, delicious. Pandora's box would be far too open if that was a crime. But morally speaking, he should be ashamed of that. And you shouldn't be happy that this happened. It should be this is terrible. This is a terrible tragedy. But you're right, TJ. They don't do that. They celebrate it. And it really shows they didn't learn their fucking lesson.
And I can't remember what it was that one of the people that he killed was. I can't remember what they had on their rap sheet, what it was they had did. But I remember hearing people say, well, they deserved it. You know, they had that attitude. And I'm like, well, you're the same people that says all lives matter. It just proves that they really don't to you, you know.
Yeah, it was, the guy had a sexual assault charge.
Yeah,
they said, so he deserved to die. It's like, well, if Kyle Rittenhouse didn't know that, and he didn't deserve to die. I mean, that's just like, it's nonsense.
If Kyle Rittenhouse did know that, it was definitely fucking murder.
Yeah, that would just definitely make him a murderer. That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But yeah, it's I wanted to point this out too. So you guys remember Trayvon Martin years ago and everything. The guy who shot him, George Zimmerman, also a hero to the right wing. Do you guys remember this? When people met with George Zimmerman and had him signing Confederate flags and signing bags of Skittles. For those of you who don't remember, Trayvon Martin was carrying, he had gone to a gas station and picked up a bag of Skittles and I think an Arizona tea or something like that. And hilarious. They just think it's so funny. Oh my God. They make them heroes for killing people, whether justified or not. They love, like you said, they live vicariously. Man, I would love the chance to kill someone like that. Like they think that all the time, and it's dark and it's scary that we have to live in the same country with these folks. That you probably go to work or see these people every day. It always happens. It's just sad.
Yeah, these people also are fired up and ready to vote. And I had Denver Riggleman on my podcast. He made an excellent point. He said, a stupid vote counts the same as a smart vote.
Yeah,
and a hateful vote counts the same way. So I just think we really need to stay focused, because those people, while they live vicariously through people like that, they're also amped up and ready to vote. And so we got to keep an eye on the ball.
It's true. What do we want to pivot to now, John? Do we want to do? I don't want to do the school shooting. Well, we may not even do that one. I don't know if we'll have time.
Let's do the Russia story.
All right, let's do the Russia one. Russia. All right. Had you heard about this one? I know you'd heard this one, but this one's so great.
Yeah.
This is yesterday was a great news day. Yesterday was a great news day with the Elon thing and this Russia thing. It's fantastic. All right, let's get this bad boy ready here. All right, so there's a new indictment that alleges conservative media company took millions in Kremlin cash. I like the alliterative sounds there, Kremlin cash. So there's a federal indictment unsealed on Wednesday, and it alleges that a Tennessee-based media company, which played home to several prominent right-leaning online commentators, was secretly a Russian government-backed influence operation. The company is accused of receiving nearly $10 million from employees of Russia Today, RT, a Russian state-backed media company, as part of a scheme to create and distribute content to United States audiences with hidden Russian government messaging. Tenet Media, is the name of the company, worked with American conservatives or heterodox media figures, including Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Lauren Southern, all subscribed to by Tennessee Brando, I'm sure, who variously present themselves as independent journalists, documentarians, and political commentators. Not all of them immediately commented on having been publicly linked to a foreign propaganda site, but Johnson soon tweeted that he and other influencers had been victims in this alleged scheme. In his own tweet, Poole echoed that line, writing in part, "Should these allegations be proven true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims." Rubin, too, described himself as a victim, adding, "I knew absolutely nothing about any of this fraudulent activity, period." So going through this, to give the kind of a bare bones structure of how this worked here, there's two people. They have Russian names that are very difficult to pronounce. It looks like Kostiatin Kalishnikov and Elena Afanasyev, I believe is how it says. And they work for Russia Today, RT. Now, back when Russia invaded Ukraine, the United States put embargoes and sanctions on Russia and said, okay, RT can't operate within the United States. So these two Russian nationals paid an American media company out of Tennessee to shove out their propaganda talking points for them. And the indictment isn't for like Dave Rubin and Tim Pool and all of them. It's for those two Russian foreign agents, because when you do something like that, you have to register with the Attorney General as a foreign agent so they know, you're spreading this propaganda. And the company, Tenet, is headed up by Lauren Chen. Now, are either of you familiar with Lauren Chen?
I'm not.
John, you familiar with Lauren Chen?
No.
Oh, okay.
Before reading this story, I was unfamiliar with Lauren Chen.
I'm so glad to hear this because, all right, so Lauren Chen, I got a video of her right here in case no one knew who Lauren Chen was. I've been following Lauren Chen for a long time. I'm not literally on her Twitter page or anything.
I've been right behind her.
Right behind her, yeah. Someone's got to keep America safe, John. It's going to be you? What's going to be? I don't see you doing shit. But no, Lauren Chen popped on my radar many years ago. She is a Canadian. She's not even American, by the way. So there's three countries involved here, and she is a far right fascist, and she's an expat from Canada, living in the United States. And these are her opinions. Like this is just Now, tell me, does this sound like?
Wait,
someone...
I've seen this girl before.
Okay, you've seen her?
I recognize the background, but no, I've definitely seen this girl before.
Oh, it's just my background. But let's see. All right, so let's go. Let's hear the wise word of Miss Chen.
When it comes to dealing with the rights woman problem, there are definitely those of you out there who will just say, well, it's simple. We need to repeal the 19th. And trust me, I am no fan of the 19th.
For those of you wondering,
I've seen this clip.
Okay,
I was like, she's the girl that argued that girls shouldn't vote, right?
Yes, yeah. So for those of you wondering, the 19th Amendment is the amendment that guarantees women the right to vote. It's been on the books for 104 years now, but Lauren Chen, not even an American, I might add, coming in telling us what to do. But let's see what else she has to say.
Repeal the 19th. And trust me, I am no fan of the 19th Amendment myself. I think it more so than anything else solidified in our consciousness the idea that the political process should be one person, one vote, which is not a good system. I don't believe in democracy. I believe individual rights and limited government are way more important than the idea of everybody having a vote. And if the past few generations have showed us anything, it's that democracy and individual rights and limited government don't often go hand in hand. I'm in favor of a limited franchise. And by the way, no, that's not a radical position. That is the position that the founding fathers have when it comes to dealing with.
Whose founding fathers, Lauren? Not yours, I'll tell you that. Now, I ask you, Tennessee Brando, I submit to you, does that sound like a foreign Russian agent to you? I mean, I gotta say, she sounds like baseball mom, apple pie, American as they get. I think that she's been framed. What about you? How about you?
Well, that's what's so funny about this to me, man. Really, is that they're denying it, saying they're the victims in it, and I'm like, okay, let's just say that let's just go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt that they didn't know where the money was coming from. They're still echoing those talking points, so that just means that someone looked over at them and said, hey, these guys over here and gals are echoing our talking points, so let's get behind them. I mean, to hear that get said and know there's people that agrees with that. I've had people that I used to have respect for say that very thing to me. We're not a democracy, and I shouldn't have to live under it. And it's just I believe that it caught on because of people like that.
John, how about you?
I remember seeing that clip, TJ, and I remember trying to make a video with it. And the problem was, it was too just chock full of stupid things that were so obviously set up to be countered that I couldn't even make a TikTok. It ended up being 10 minutes long because it's just one thing after the other where she's just like, yeah, no, it's not a radical position. It's this position of our founding fathers. It's like, yeah, well, their position was also you can own slaves. You don't think that's fucking radical? It's like none of it makes sense. But there is at least an honesty to it where it's like, hey, yeah, no, democracy really gets in the way of individual rights. And as long as you know specifically whose individual rights I'm talking about, I'm being very honest. And it's like, yeah, no, you're right. It does often get in the way of the individual rights that you are specifically talking about. But you know what it doesn't get in the way of? The rights of the people whose votes you're trying to take away. It actually helps them a lot. And if you don't have it for everyone, then they aren't really individual rights, not really small government, is it? And that's kind of the point to her. To move it, I'm so glad she's a Russian op because that makes a lot of sense.
It does, yep.
Moving it back to Tim Pool and the other big names that were implicated here, the Benny Johnsons, their response to this, because you're right, they weren't implicated, but their response was so fucking funny. TJ, do you have it prepped up?
Oh, I can find it. Let's see how Tim Pool's statement. Yeah, I'll pull it up.
I have it.
Oh, you have it? Okay,
so
all right.
I can share this.
Yeah.
But I removed myself instead of sharing my
screen. It's like, it's John's turn to be visited by the three ghosts of bad Wi-Fi. All right.
So Temple says, my statement regarding allegations in the DOJ indictment. Should these allegations prove true, I, as well as other personalities and commenters, were deceived and are victims. I cannot speak for anyone else at the company as to what they do or what they are instructed. The Culture War podcast was licensed by Tenet Media. It existed well before any license agreement with Tenet and will continue to exist after any such agreement expires. The only change with the agreement was that the location of the live broadcast moved to Tenet's YouTube channel, blah, 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 blah. Never at any point did anyone other than I have full editorial control of the show, and the contents of the show are often apolitical. Examples include discussing spirituality, dating, and video games. The show was produced in its entirety by our local team without input from any external to the company. TCW is a separate company not associated with timcast.com or other properties. It exists solely for the production of the Culture War podcast. That being said, we still do not know what is true, and these are only allegations. Putin is a scumbag. Russia sucks donkey balls. And to the journalists who wish to jump the gun, create their own narrative, or lie about anything currently going on, you can eat my ass. And it's a brilliant argument. It's hey guys, no, you got it all wrong. I wasn't paid by the Russians to promote Russian misinformation. They started paying me because I was already promoting Russian disinformation. I was not an operative. I was merely a stooge, good sir. And it's a no-win situation. You're just caught. Yeah. You're caught with your hand in the cookie jar. Whether or not you knew you were being bribed, the effect is still exactly the same. It would honestly, I'd have more respect for you, Tim, if you're like, yeah, I took their money, so what? Yeah, I took some Russians' money. I still kept saying what I wanted to. They're the real losers here. That would have been, I would have had respect for him. It would have been a terrible legal thing to say. His lawyers wouldn't let him. But that would have been the right move as a poster.
Yeah.
So the thing with Tim Pool, like, so I have a copy of the indictment right here. Now, the thing with Tim Pool and Dave Rubin, who we're assuming commentator 1 and commentator 2 are in this indictment, because like they list their YouTube follower counts and they kind of matched it up and they found the people who work for Tenet, and so it's definitely these two they're talking about the indictment. In the indictment, it mentions how much they were paid, and it was let me see if I can pull up here how much they were paid, but it's more than you would guess. I'll tell you that. Okay, so commentator 1, I can't remember if that's Rubin or Pool. But in exchange for a monthly fee of $400,000 plus a $100,000 signing bonus and an additional performance bonus, commentator 1's production company agreed that any and all content created under this agreement will be property of this company. And the other one, Rubin, in exchange for a fee of $100,000 per video, commentator 2's production company granted U.S. company a non-exclusive, non-transferable license. Could you imagine getting paid $100,000 a video or $100,000 a week for one video? That $500K in 1 month for making right-wing propaganda for Russia. Now, like what you said, John, whether you knew or not, you're not getting that money for nothing. Like you definitely know you're getting it to back someone up.
We're not getting $100,000, TJ. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
we would have a functional show with a functional production if we had that.
We have a production assistant and everything that can help out with the shit. Now, what's really interesting about this is they did ask, or at least I think Tim Pool did ask, hey, what's going on here? And who's the person that is actually backing this? And of course, so Lauren Chen knew. Lauren Chen and her husband were approached directly by the Russians. Like if you read the indictment, they even refer to them as the Russians throughout the entire thing. So like they got no leg to stand on. They actually knew what was going on. But they did try to hide it from their employees. So like in the indictment, it mentions, where do we go here? Oh, I found her. Okay. Say what?
Oh, no.
Commentator 2's own names and leveraging their existing audience for license. Falsely portraying commentator 1 and commentator 2 U.S. company was sponsored by a private investor named Eduard Gregorian. In truth and in fact, Gregorian was a fictional persona. For example, during contract negotiations, commentator 1 requested that founder 1 provide the profile for an article for Eduard Gregorian. In response, founder 1 sent commentator 1 a one-page profile provided by founder 1 by another fictional persona purporting to represent Edward Gregorian. So what they're talking about, they created this fake flyer for this guy named Edward Gregorian and gave it to Tim Pool and Dave Rubin saying, this is your investor. It's a Western European guy with a lot of money and he likes your content. He wants to make more of this. And I got to tell you, I can't blame them for buying it at that point. It's like, okay, well, this is the guy that has a bunch of money. Here's his name. They tried Googling him. They couldn't find him anywhere. And they kind of rolled with it. So there's plausible deniability at first that they didn't know that it was actually being paid by the Russian government. But after a while, like you said, when all your talking points match up directly with the Russian government, they know. And that people are telling you that you're being funded by the Russians and you have this angel investor giving you $500,000 a month. Come on. I just don't believe them. I don't believe that they didn't know. What about you, Brandon?
No, I don't believe them either. I can't believe them. And it's one of those things where, at this point, man, how do we figure out how to phrase this? How do we go about putting the toothpaste back in the tube now that there's been so much misinformation put out there? And with this idea that if we, call them out about this, well, we're weaponizing the government against them. They're going to make the argument about free speech. So this is one of those things where in any other era, man, it would be talked about on every news channel, every publication would be front page news. Russians, took over. But how are we ever going to get it back away from them and make people believe they've been duped?
So I'm going to make a slightly controversial statement here.
Let's go.
I think that there's not really a problem with this. I think that it's kind of silly. Now, when it comes to like investing in political campaigns, that sort of thing, lobbying the government, foreign actors should definitely not be able to do that. But when it comes to the media, like I don't know, like I think that free speech is a human right, and if a Russian wants to have it, it's no different than an American one to have it. It doesn't bother me that Tim Pool was paid by the Russians. It just should be known. You know what I mean? Like it just like should be known. People who follow Tim Pool should have to reconcile with that and understand that. But I don't think it's like, I don't think he did something morally wrong by taking the money. I don't think it's something that should be criminal. It's just he's wrong, and he people should know that he's wrong. And this is evidence that he was being paid to say this. That's why that's good indicator that it was wrong. And go ahead, TJ.
Oh, so yeah, legally he didn't do anything wrong. You're right. Like legally, there's like the legal. Well, I mean, I guess like because like morally, definitely, if you're getting paid by someone, your audience should know. I don't know like what the laws are behind that, but I think that you should disclose that, you know, for journalistic integrity. Hey, this is where my investor's coming from. Legally, though, like you mentioned, like the Russian foreign actor that wants to have a media arm in the United States, they have to register the Department of Defense. That's the only crime, really. Like if they would have just registered, then they wouldn't be under this indictment, but they did not want to because the United States would probably put the kibosh on that. They're like, no, we don't want you out there spreading the sedition against, you know, the United States military operations. That's
we
not,
do all the time.
So, you know, this is
constantly.
This is just funny because Brandon, I don't know if you saw this last week, but Donald Trump made a short trip to Arlington National Cemetery, and he had his picture with the thumbs up over the dead Marine's body and everything. And what was wild about that is, so what he did was against federal election law. Like you can't go to Arlington National Cemetery and do a campaign spot there. And John and I were talking about how what's really twisted about this is politicians use dead soldiers for propaganda all the fucking time. They do it all the time. It's essentially a language for them to use the bodies of dead soldiers to further their interest. However, there is one small band of decency where they say, okay, look, you can't literally go to Arlington Cemetery and film a commercial over the fallen service members. Not for Donald Trump, though. Like Donald Trump, it's like it's that the bar is that low. So it is funny whenever you do see that there actually are guardrails in our politics or in our media, that some lines you can't cross, where all you need to do as a foreign actor is register with the state. And like Russia, RT did it already. RT did it years ago until the invasion of Ukraine. But I mean, also I get it too, because they wouldn't have allowed it because they banned any Russian media. And so they would have been rejected. So that was their only way to get away with it. I wanted to point this out, that there was a really funny moment in the guys, read the indictment. It is hilarious. Like it is side splitting reading the shit that went on in this indictment. There was one part where Lauren Chin had to pretend she was this fake Russian guy who wasn't part of the Russian government or anything. And she would talk about how she was in Moscow. And, you know, she got the time wrong because she wasn't thinking, I got to put it out on Moscow time and fucking it up and everything. But there's one part in there. Do you guys remember when Tucker Carlson went to that Russian grocery store?
Yes.
Earlier this year. So Lauren Chin's company told the producer, hey, get this out to all the folks so they can talk about, you know, Tucker's trip to the grocery store. And the producer says, all right, on or about February 15th, 2024, a video of a well-known U.S. political commentator visiting a grocery store in Russia, I can't pronounce her last name, posted the video in the producer Discord channel. Later that day, the producer privately messaged the founder, Lauren Chin, on Discord, saying, they want me to post this, noticing the video that she had posted, but it just feels like overt shilling. And he says, and the founder said, I think we should put it out there. The producer acquiesced, responding, all right, I'll put it up tomorrow. I love that part right there, because even the producer's like, look, I know that we're doing this shady shit with the Russians, but come on, really? Like, this is just obvious Russian propaganda. It's like, no, let's put it out there anyway. And Hilarious stuff. You guys get a time for a good read. It's only like 10 pages. Read it. It is a fantastic read. I love that though. I love that the producer's like, boss, you sure about this one? Post the fucking video. Do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh, go ahead, John.
Good. That's good. No, that's all I had to say about that.
Oh,
we talked about it. We talked about a good deal yesterday, but this has been a funny saga.
It has been. It's just that the conservative media sphere is just circling the toilet. Honestly, it's the worst people imaginable. Like, you knew all these folks were garbage. You knew they were terrible. And John and I were trying to figure this out, Brandon, the other day about what they were just going to do this anyway. So why did Russia? You know what I'm wondering? Why did they pay them so much? That's what I can't figure out.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, like, they're already doing it. So if they're already doing it, why pay them that much?
That's
a great point.
TJ. Yeah, I don't.
That's a lot of money.
It is. It's a lot of fucking money.
It is.
It's not like they have a war to fight or anything, TJ.
Right. I was trying to see
what is the ROI on that ad spend? You know what I mean?
That's what I'm wondering here, because like in the indictment it says that they spent about $10 million. And from what I saw, then again, I didn't read through a fine-tooth comb, but I only saw like 2.5 or 3 allocated for in that. So maybe there's more indictments coming out, because like they sound like every other conservative commentator. It's not like there's a wild difference. I don't know. Did you see that video?
I did say this yesterday. Like, there was a turning point where the Republican Party,
no pun intended,
yes, led like the initial thrust was from the Daily Wire crew, the Tim Pools of the world, like the conservative influencer sphere really pushed the anti-Ukraine thing before the politicians did. Like, this was led within the political party first by the influencers. And so if this was pretty quid pro quo, it fucking worked, you know? And that $10 million was the most well-spent $10 million ever. But it did seem genuine to me. Like, I feel like they would have done it anyway. I don't know. It's hard. So many of them, like, immediately were like, yeah, Putin not that bad of a guy. You know, this is going before Ukraine. You know, like, Trump had a fucking hard on for him.
Yeah. You're right. Like, it's hard to argue with the results that there is a significant portion of the American populace that really loves Vladimir Putin, like, which would unthinkable 10 years ago, just unthinkable that would be your average opinion for right wingers. And but goddamn, $100,000 a video, like, no video is worth that. Like, no video could like, I mean,
TJ, I just figured it out.
Oh, let's go.
Figured it out. So this is what happened. It was going on anyway, and then these guys, they identified, if we start giving these guys money, who are already talking good things about Vlad, and we tell Vlad that we gave him the money to say that, Vlad's gonna like us.
Oh yeah,
and the more money we give him, the more impressive it'll look. And that's exactly what happened there.
I like that because, like, nothing else is clicking for me that a Tim Pool video is going to be worth 100,000. I don't know. It's just weird shit. I don't know. I would just think they would pick more impressive people. Like, Tim Pool would not be the top of my list if I was going to go to a conservative commentator to, like, have them bat my points. Like, I don't know.
Well, we've said this. Ben Shapiro was too smart.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, Ben Shapiro. Yeah.
He's running a legitimate organization over there. Tim Pool ain't.
No, we weren't talking about that yesterday. We were saying that, your average conservative commentator is just like, a fridge temperature IQ. Like, we get that though. But, like, Ben Shapiro is kind of an exception. Ben Shapiro's no dummy. Like, the guy is pretty smart. As far as conservatives go, I can see him saying, no, thanks. I'm not doing this. Obviously, he even points out, like, when Trump does the illegal shit, he kind of tepidly walks his way into it. But man, Tim Pool would be the easy mark on that. Dave Rubin, like, come on. Yeah, that's some wild stuff. I got it. All right. We want to do some debate talk?
Let's do some debate talk, TJ.
Okay, the debate talk. So, Brandon, when Trump and Biden debated last time, John and I did a live with the debate. Did you watch the debate all the way through by any chance?
Yeah, I did.
All right. So what was do you remember your reaction while you were going through the debate?
Okay, well, what's funny, I believe it or not, I actually watched it twice. Because
you poor bastard. Why would you do
I did.
that to yourself? My God.
Well, I'll tell you why I did. Because my first time watching it, don't get me wrong, I recognized that Biden was having an off night. I mean, anyone could see that. But what was really jumping out at me was that Trump just kept circling back, no matter what the question was about. He kept circling back to immigrants are coming across the border. They're the root of all problems. He just kept circling back to that talking point so many times that really annoyed me. And then when it went off, and I'm sitting there trying to gather my thoughts about it, the media is immediately saying, Biden crashed and burned, and I'm like, oh yeah, it wasn't his best performance by a long shot. So I went back to see how bad it was and went and plowed through it one more time, just because, it was one of those things where I felt like that it was kind of like when a fighter wins on points, and it's not very, it's a fight that's not the best fight they ever fought. I felt like Biden won on points, but it wasn't like a decisive crowd pleasing victory by no means, if that makes sense.
Your assessment was way more generous than John. Ours is recorded for posterity. When that was over, we're like, yikes. I thought Biden got smoked, and that debate was like, it was because with debates and everything, it's like what you say isn't nearly as important as how you say it. There's there's no academic people keeping score and everything like that. But it is true that unfortunately I think Trump looked way better than he should have, because everyone was focused on Joe Biden, walking into the most obvious traps and not capitalizing on abortion of all things, and just dropping the ball on that, and everybody panicked. So a lot of people thought that, oh my God, this Trump guy's unbeatable. And that's what I remember arguing. So I'll say, no, he's not. Biden to beat him every other time he debated him. He's not some unstoppable force of, oration. We can easily take this guy down, but I just don't know if Biden's up for it. But that was but John even had a worse opinion than I did. Mine wasn't that good. Do you remember yours, John?
I on debate night, TJ, I've never reacted so viscerally to political events. I guess outside of when Russia invaded Ukraine, that was, I guess, a pretty visceral fucking reaction I had. But this is probably I was full on Cobra surrender pose looking at the fucking thing from the beginning, from the very first minutes, as soon as Biden came out there and couldn't get words out, because I think that a lot of people who had your reaction, Brando, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but the thing that I envision is that you were watching it trying to say, oh, so he just said this, he just said this, he was right about this, and he was right about this. But I knew as soon as he looked and sounded like that, it was fucking over. Yeah. It was. Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it was over from that moment, and it was just a train wreck from then on. And I remember TJ and Nick were like, I don't know, I feel like he can bring it back in the second round. I'm like, he's cooked. He's done.
He did. It's true. John called it early. It's true.
It was so much when just because I don't know if you guys, football's back today, guys. And I'm an Eagles fan. And last year, the Eagles utterly collapsed. They went from the Super Bowl. They had a 10-game winning streak and then just lost almost every other fucking game. And everyone in Philadelphia was like, oh yeah, they're going to lose the first playoff game. Even though they were the better team, even though they should have won on paper, we were like, they're just done. They're over. It's over for them. They just need to reset and let it go because this season's over. Mentally, they're not there. They're cooked. It's done. And I felt the same way with Joe Biden, where it's just yeah, no, he can't come back from this. It's over. The narrative has already been set. It doesn't matter what he does from here on out. He's the fumbling old man who can't get a sentence out. And that's all that anyone's going to remember. And I mean, I was exactly right.
No, you are. No, for real. I think like I said, I was watching it and I was listening to the responses and the answers. And and I was annoyed by Trump, But to your point, whether we like it or not, politics is about performance, and
Yep.
it is a theater. And there was what I started to say a minute ago. There was some lines that Biden had that was some really good lines, but he delivered them so weak, and so when he said the line about you have the morals of an alley cat. If he'd have delivered that same line, if you'd give that same line to someone with more enthusiasm and would have delivered it more, where it would have stung, but it was just kind of like, you have the morals of an alley cat. It just kind of came off like that. And that's when it was just like, oh, I realized, like I said, I realized that he was losing, but at the same time, I was so annoyed by Trump. And I think probably deep down, I realized, crap, this is how they're going to spin it now. And I'm going to have to, so it was definitely, it's one of the, and I'm in hindsight, I'm glad they went ahead and had that debate then,
right?
Instead of waiting till now, because if that had happened in September,
done.
Yeah,
over.
Yeah.
It was wild. That was because like a lot of it worked out so well in the end that you could. Of course, people are going to throw conspiracies and stuff out there, but man, looking back on it, it was just dumb fucking luck, man, that this happened this way. And like no one had any idea that Harris would unite people like on the left side of the aisle so quickly. Like it happened within a day or two. Everyone was all in line with it. Or that she pick a great VP, or that or that the Republicans had nothing ready for her, just nothing at all. They don't have any argument set up for us. Like you had years. This was a great possibility. Biden could have died any day. Like how were you not ready for this? And just my proof though that the Democrats didn't have some grand scheme with this is that Kamala HQ is in Wilmington, Delaware. Like it's still where Biden's HQ was. They didn't even change the location. So yeah, trust me, this was not planned out. This is something that that took everyone off guard. And, oh, John. So one more thing about this. We'll get to the next debate soon enough, I promise. But when Biden dropped out, I remember seeing his message that went out, and it said that, I no longer think that I'm right for the job, whatever, and I'm dropping out. And I saw that, and John texted me shortly. He goes, "Hey, you see Biden dropped out?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm kind of worried he didn't endorse Harris, though." That really I had a sinking feeling when I saw that, because I did not want to see some contested, brutal, throat-cutting fight afterward. And then a couple minutes later, he came out and says, "By the way, I fully endorse Kamala Harris for this." And I remember thinking, that was weird. Why didn't you do that at first? That's pretty important information. But did you guys see that Jim Clyburn was the one that told him to do that? There was this thing. Yeah, so after he submitted that message,
Jim Clyburn being still so influential in Democratic politics explains a lot. It does explain a lot.
And so after he sent out that message, Jim Clyburn called him and's like, "Hey, I think something's missing here." It's like, "I think something's missing. This is like some very vital information here." He's like, "Oh yeah," and then go ahead and I just thought that was. Obviously, you do that on the first speech or whatever. But what I wanted to go across about the next debate was exactly what you were talking about, Brandon, is that people overestimated Trump based on the Biden debate. I think that's happened a lot, that, we forgot that Trump didn't seem, cogent or coherent compared to a normal person, but compared to Joe Biden, he seemed like, William Jennings Bryan or something. And I don't know if you guys saw this clip here with Donald Trump when he was asked about childcare. I don't know if you guys saw this today. They asked him what his administration planned to do with childcare. So this is a pretty good one. Let's get this going here.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that.
Okay, before we listen to that, do we have any guesses? John, do you have any guesses on what Donald Trump is going to say to Have you seen the video first? Have you seen this video?
No, I have not.
Okay, so do you have any guesses? All right.
This is such a toss-up. It's like I have no idea what's about to come out of his mouth. Like, there's a part of me that wants to say that he's going to deport the immigrant children so that we have more food for our children, but that doesn't even make sense in Trump logic. So I really don't know what his position here is going to be.
Brandon, any guesses?
No, I've not saw his response. I saw JD Vance's, so I'm curious to see.
I'll pull that one up too.
Okay.
One up too. So
I
it's
did
funny,
see JD's.
John, that was my guess too. I said, I know what he's gonna say. He's gonna deport 10 million people, and that's gonna make housing costs come down and lower the
The
demand.
New York Times fucking said that as a Trump housing policy. By the way, did you see that?
Yeah,
they listed Trump's housing policy to make housing more affordable. He's going to deport 1 million people.
Right? Yeah,
just go fuck yourself.
It's kind of Trump's go-to, but people, the answer's worse. The answer's actually worse. So let's see.
And we're sitting down. I was somebody. We had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people, but we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation.
All right, I'll go to John first. What the hell was that? What?
So I did expect some sort of rambling, incoherent answer. What I didn't expect was the actual worst answer that you could possibly give. Not like in a moral perspective of I guess like an indecent proposal. Oh, we'll just eat some of the babies. That'd be like morally the worst. But we're gonna pay for it with tariffs, which anyone like Econ 101, tariffs get passed down onto the consumer. It is a tax on the consumer. Everyone fucking knows it. Like, how are we going to make childcare less expensive? I'm going to raise the prices of all foreign goods. That's what's going to make childcare less expensive. And also, by the way, I don't think childcare is that expensive. Stop complaining. Yeah. Absolute gold star, terrible answer.
Brandon, I'll go to you. How do you think Kamala Harris is gonna do against a rhetorician of this type? Like, what do you think?
Oh man,
what Trump showed you right there.
I'm looking forward to it. I want to see her. I want to see someone stand up to him and call him out and get under his skin, because anytime someone gets under his skin is when he falls apart. So I'm just really hoping that she takes it to him and go ahead, call him weird, say it right out loud, just go for it, get under his skin and get him rattled, because when you do, I feel like he can come unglued when that happens.
Yeah,
but I was not expecting that answer from him. It was like it was hard to follow. But the part about
that 100% tariff is a good policy. He believes that down to his fucking core.
Yeah.
Yeah, that answer was crazy. That answer was so. All right. So for anyone wondering what a tariff is, okay, so Donald Trump does not seem to know. Like, a lot of times people will make fun of Trump because Trump is just a very unique guy in the way he talks, and it doesn't always make sense. But you listen to Trump long enough, you can figure out what he means usually. But I genuinely don't think Trump understands how a tariff works. He doesn't, because he says this all the time that we're going to raise tax on foreign nations. So for people wondering what a tariff is, tariffs are taxes on imported goods. That's what a tariff is. And so like he did a tariff on Chinese like steel, I think, when he was in office last time. So what Trump seems to believe is that this product or these goods are produced in a foreign country, and then the company pays a tax to get them sold in the United States. And that's not how a tariff works. The tax goes to the importer. So if I am importing Chinese steel, I pay that tax on that imported stuff, and I pass the cost down to the consumer. So the consumer ends up paying it. The foreign government doesn't pay a dime. The only possible like retribution the foreign government would face is the point of the tariff is to reduce the trade from the foreign. So I sell fewer goods. But in no way would you look at this, does this help American consumers afford childcare? Like there's no matter how you look at it, is that going to work? And that's just what he goes with every time. It is insanity. And since we brought it up, before we move on to Kyle, we'll look at his next in line to see what his idea.
This response cracked me up.
This is fantastic. This is fantastic. All right. Let's see what we got here.
Hayden, obviously a working family, and it's very hard for working. Can we do about lowering the cost of daycare? Hayden, obviously a working family, and it's very hard for working families to get by. How will we lower the cost of daycare?
It's such an important question, Charlie. And I think one of the things that we can do is make it easier for family models to choose, or for families to choose whatever model they want, right? So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help out a little bit more, or maybe there's an aunt or uncle that wants to help out a little bit more. If that happens, you relieve some of the pressure on all the resources that we're spending in daycare. Now, you talk about just daycare. Let's say you don't have somebody who can provide that extra set of hands. What we've got to do is actually empower people to get trained in the skills that they need for the 21st century. We've got a lot of people who love kids, who would love to take care of kids, but they can't, either because they don't have access to the education that they need, or maybe more importantly, because the state government says you're not allowed to take care of children unless you have some ridiculous certification that has nothing to do with taking care of kids. So empower people to get the skills they need. Don't force every early child care specialist to go and get a 6-year college degree where they've got a whole lot of debt and Americans are much poorer because they're paying out the wazoo for daycare. Empower working families, empower people who want to do these things for a living, and that's what we got to do.
All right, Brandon, we'll go to you. What do you think of, you find this answer any more comforting than Donald Trump's?
It's just so funny to me that the Republican Party used to be all about pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and now it's like, let Mama help you out. Like, just go to Mama and Papa and have them help, or have your aunt and uncle. I could not believe that he actually said that out loud. I did not see that coming, but yeah, it's such a far fall from what the Republican Party once was.
John, how about yourself?
I'm just confused by what he was even trying to say there. Partially because I was distracted by his tie hanging out. Like his tie was so distracting to me in that video, I could not get past it. I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but anyway, I don't like. Is he saying that the reason childcare costs are so high is because like fucking preschools are paying their fucking like what does he like? I don't even understand the logic. I genuinely don't understand why he thinks the costs are high, because I know what those jobs pay. I would love to do those. Honestly, I would quit my job right fucking now if those jobs actually paid so much money, and that's why childcare was so expensive. If I could make 50, 60 grand a year doing childcare, I do it in a heartbeat. You fucking can't. You can't do it.
Yeah.
It's not because of these degrees, which, yeah, you're right, people have to pay for, and then they still go into childcare and they're just in debt their whole lives because they're fucking saints. But like, that's not the reason childcare is so expensive. And it's also just a small part. Like a small part of what it takes to raise a child is babysitting. like I don't know why he just focused in on that very small part of what it takes to raise a child.
Yeah. So You're right. His tie. I didn't catch that until you brought it up. Like, oh my god, I didn't catch that at all. But that's
I could like this. Like the entire suit doesn't fit right. Like I've been following too much menswear guy on Twitter. Like I don't know if you guys follow him, but he just fucking roasts Republicans for their terrible outfits in a very like formal manner. Like this guy knows his shit when it comes to suits. Like, oh my god, I could not help but notice that fucking tie.
Yeah, that's he's doing the Trump thing. Trump's ties are always too long. Maybe that's it.
True. That might be
Trump's the only one I know
who is wider. He can kind of get away with that. It made him look somehow.
It made him look weird. Yeah. Ties are always also kind of weird. It's just an arrow pointing at your dick. It's just odd, when you think about it. It's like it's kind of strange to have ties. But okay, so what JD Vance is saying, John, is first is what Brandon mentioned, that first, if you need someone to take care of your kids, have your parents work until they die, basically. Have your aunties and your uncles, because they're going to provide either free or incredibly cheap childcare. Everyone's got that, right? And then he said, and then if you don't have that, what he said was what we need to do is first create opportunities for people to afford childcare, but get your ass to work so you can afford it. That's his first step. Step two is we need to make it easier for people to qualify for being child care caretakers. And he said that we don't need people going to college for 6 years, accruing a lot of debt and for childcare, and then getting a job that's not going to pay them that much. So let's make it easier for people to become child care workers. And that was an interesting point to me, because I was like, okay, is it difficult to become a child care worker? So I can't speak for all 50 states and territories, but I live in the great state of Indiana. So I looked up, what does it need? What do you need to be a daycare worker in Indiana? Well, you have to be 18 and you have to have a high school education or equivalent. You can have a GED as well. And if you work with an infant or toddler group, you have to be 21 and a high school diploma with 1 year of experience. That's the bar right there. So it's apparently not difficult to become a child care worker at the daycare level. Like, I was thinking, I knew plenty of girls in their early 20s who did not have degrees who worked at daycares. So his entire framework that he has, that it's difficult to get these jobs and these people accrue a bunch of debt and they're staying away from these positions, not true. No, not true at all. So like anything else, they don't really have a solution to help people out with childcare other than, get your ass to work, get yourself a better paying job. And then maybe if you're good, you can prove yourself worthy enough to have someone take care of your child while you're at work. That's kind of what he was going with.
And also, by the way, TJ, the actual policy which would solve the problem that doesn't exist, that he's claiming exists, would be a policy which he does not support.
Right?
He would not support giving free child education classes to everyone who needs them. He simply would. He doesn't support giving free fucking food to children. That is just not something that he would support. So, JD, if you want to work on this with me, I'll work on it with you. We want to get a universal education. I think all teachers should go to college for free. It seems like one of the most obvious fucking things that in the entire history of the world. Yeah, we need these people to take care of our kids. They're gonna, produce a buttload of value for our economy, and they're gonna get paid shit the entire time. They shouldn't have to pay for that. It would make sense, JD. You want to join me on that? Because we can do it, but he's not going to, because he just is complaining about a problem which A, doesn't exist in the way he thinks it does, and B, his proposed policy solution would not be something Republicans would go for.
Well, he wouldn't agree with that, you're right, but he would have a different solution. And his solution would be lower the standards for teachers. Like, everyone should homeschool their kids pretty much, and you don't need any education to do that at all. I think that's what his solution would be when he says open up venues for this, not for college. Just as let anybody just teach these kids. I mean, how important is it anyway? They should be out working when they're 13. So yeah, that's kind of how I was going with. But so I'll go to you, John. So what do you think? Well, not against Vance, but against Trump, that Harris's strategy should be going against Trump, because I do like what Tennessee Brando said, that Trump is the most thin-skinned individual I've ever witnessed in my life. There is no slight too small. So you can just say something one thing that, Jesus, I can't believe how bad Biden fumbled this thing. But one thing that Biden did that seemed to really bother Trump, it jumped out at me, is when he shit talked his golf game. And he's like, oh yeah, I hear your golf game's guard. And then Trump just started, I was like, oh my gosh, the crazy person. I was like, oh, Biden got him And then Biden started arguing back. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You had him, and then now you look just as stupid. So I like that strategy of just like a slight little nudge towards him, just to get him off the edge. You throw him off this game. What do you think, John? What are some other strategies you could use?
Yeah, so I think you got to look at this like a game where you have a win condition, and your win condition in this game, it cannot be prove him wrong. If Kamala Harris thinks the win condition here is prove Donald Trump wrong, she's going to lose, because you can't prove Donald Trump wrong, because he's just going to gish gallop you to death. He's going to just throw a million wrong things out there, and while you're wasting your time trying to say how each one of them is wrong, you're not getting your message across. That's number one. Number two, the win condition is get Donald Trump to call you a bitch. That is, and I swear to God, that sounds like oh, I'm going to the take factory and getting my take that's going to get a lot of likes. No, that is what I want her trying to do the entire time. And if she can get him to call her the N-word, even better. But it's on the table. There's a non-zero chance, and that's an automatic win, because even the most hateful fucking people are going to fucking love it. But like everyone who isn't like diehard crazy person will be like, oh shit, Trump just lost his cool in a really not cool way. And it's going to look so fucking bad. And I don't think it'll be that hard for her to do it. She needs to get under his skin and get him to personally attack her race, her gender. That is how she wins. She can win on the policy too. Like, put forth your policy as well, but don't do it in a defensive way. Do it in an offensive way, and get him to make it about you as a person while you're the one making it about policy. That's how she wins.
Yeah, I agree that. Fortunately for her, it won't be hard to set Trump off. Like, it's not like he's ready for it. And what Harris has going for her is that, one, it's actually kind of difficult to lose to Trump in a lot of ways. Like, as long as you act like a normal human being, you know he's not going to. So you just present yourself as which she's been doing such a good job at this entire election cycle, is that she doesn't get, like you said, John, she doesn't get into the mud. She doesn't like try to like I think, honestly, I wish she'd do a little bit more, but her strategy is working. Where the great example of this was when she did her CNN debate, when they asked her about Donald Trump questioning, well, when did you become black? And what are your thoughts on this? And she said, that's ridiculous. Next question. Great answer. Yeah. Because she's not going to talk about it, but the Republicans will. And that's going to make them sound crazier and crazier. So, present your policies, just do slight things to just like, I got it. It's not about mocking Trump. It's about dismissing him. It's about saying, this is absurd. This is ridiculous. I do want some pushback. Just for once in my fucking life, I want somebody to push back when Trump says, and the Democrats want to have babies executed after they're born. I never hear them push back on this. I never hear it. They just let that shit slide. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. That's never happened. It's never happened anywhere. That is infanticide. It is illegal in all 50 states and every territory, and I'm pretty sure every nation on the planet. Now, moving on. Just say that. That's all I want.
That's it. The now moving on. That is it, TJ. I just need to jump on that. Have a short, pithy answer to the crazy things he's going to say, so you don't have to be surprised by them and hang on them. 3 sentences, you're out. Talk about your thing. It's not that hard, because it's not.
It's not. The day after Biden's debate, I have so many people saying, well, how could you possibly defeat Trump when he lies all the time? I said, easy, just like that. Pick one lie, make fun of him for it, move on to your point. That's it. That's all you have to do. Smoke him. You will smoke him in that debate. Well, what do you think, Brandon?
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that's a really smart move to dismiss him, because he can't stand that. His ego is so huge that he can't stand to be dismissed and to be sort of poked fun at and laughed at. And what's so funny about him and Vance both is how set off they are by being called weird. They've been called racist. They've been called everything else, and none of those things bothered them. They really didn't make that big of a. But it's like, no, we're not weird. You're weird. It's like, so I think going in, if she brings her points to the table, of course, but like you said, dismiss him and move on. And I thought her answer, like you said, about the his comment about her becoming black. I thought her response to that was brilliant. She's like, same old tired playbook, and just next question, and like you said, now it forces them to talk about it. I think if she just lets him be Donald Trump and brings her policy, dismisses him, moves on, and just forces him to talk, because the more he talks, the worse it gets. He's doing the same. If you watch his whether he's on the campaign trail or whether he's sitting down talking with a podcaster, whatever the case may be, he's doing the same tired act. It's the same. My uncle at MIT was smart. My whole family's smart. It's just I talked about Hannibal Lecter. They say I ramble. I don't ramble. I don't know if you saw this or not, but it was like I weave. He's like, I weave these points together, and these English professors love me for it. They think I'm a genius. It's like, no, just hold his feet to the fire, but at the same time, dismiss him and just poke at him just enough to set him off to where you let him talk, and it just exposes him for who he is.
Damn, I forgot about the weave. The weave was brilliant. The weave was so fucking funny. I wanted to point out that you said that how it's funny that, you call them all these names, you call them racist, and they just move on. You call them weird and they act up. They know they're racist, but they don't think they're weird. So the weird kind of, oh no, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on here? I don't know. But I don't know. Any closing thoughts about the debate, John? What do you think of some final advice for the Harris team?
My advice for the Harris team is, before the debate, mention that the left wing will be live streaming the debate on Tuesday at whatever time it fucking starts.
9 p.m. again.
9 p.m. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
We'll be live streaming at 9 p.m. with the excellent Nick Powers will be returning us. So definitely everyone here watch that. But in seriousness, it's not that hard. Like, I am a little worried, TJ. I'm starting to get a little nervous. It's a little just like pregame nerves.
Yeah.
But like, her lack of public unscripted appearances, while I don't agree with the conservative attacks on them, are just kind of worrying me a little bit. Like, maybe there's some fire to that smoke. But she did fine in the VP debate. I hope she's better prepped for this one, which she should be. And it's not a difficult opponent. Just follow the basic rules that we have laid out in front of you here. And it shouldn't be that hard. I really hope that I'm not sitting here being like, you missed it, because that's gonna, I might die, TJ. because this is the thing. I think it's either gonna go one way or the other.
Feast or famine with this thing. It's just
this is the last big inflection point. We're not. There might be another debate. I don't know, but like, this is you send the race to its final leg at this debate here, and it is going to be huge for what's going to happen in November.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not super worried, honestly. And then again, I wasn't worried about Biden either. Look how that turned out. But it's
I was worried about Biden.
Because like you said, this isn't her first political debate, and she's done interviews, she's done debates before, and I would venture that debating Mike Pence would be more challenging than Trump, honestly, because that's a real debate. Actually, Trump is not a real debate; it's a joke. So moving on should be pretty easy. But I think that she's kind of playing like a prevent defense. I think that's just what they're going for here, because god damn, like the polls have kind of leveled out or whatever. But have you seen some of these numbers? We're the greatest numbers, bigger numbers anyone's ever seen. I saw this poll across 13 states that the registration for Black women is up 175%, like triple. Like that is insane. Like how high, and we all know like that's going to heavily favor Harris. I saw this CNN clip, and it was showing that in like the 7 major swing states. Also, she added a swing state. North Carolina was not a swing state when Biden was in. So that's great running in her favor. And in every swing state, she was ahead in women voters, sometimes 12, 13, 15 points by women voters. But unfortunately, this is when it comes to voting, dudes do not rock. I was sad to see men were heavily for Trump, like all across the board, 12, 13 points, a little bit of wash there. But women do vote more than men do. So I don't know. All the indicators are leaning in her direction. And you're right. She just has to not fuck it up. That's it. I mean, that's all Biden had to do was just present a C+ performance, and he could have coasted, I think. And Harris even more so. Things are looking way better for her. Oh, shit. We only got 12 minutes. I guess we can talk a little bit about actually, that works out perfectly. our fourth topic was the school shooting in Georgia. And John and I were actually talking because, like, we don't know if we have a whole lot to say. It's just that this like, what's the Onion article thing that
God, hold on.
I was like, how could this happen again? Says Nation, where this happens all the time, or something like that. And it's just like,
no way to prevent this, says Only Nation, where this regularly happens.
Yeah, I found this clip. Do you guys know who Mark Robinson is by any chance?
Yeah,
he's he's the North Carolina lieutenant governor.
Mm-hmm.
He had a statement about this, and as you guess, it's gonna be great. So let's see what Mr. Robinson has to say.
They're always hiding behind these monikers, but they're always standing for tyranny. Same way they stand up against our Second Amendment. What are the words that we use when we stand up for our Second Amendment? The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I mean, it's simple, it's short. We understand it, and it's in our Constitution, and it's for everybody. And what do? They come up with these convoluted numbers about, well, you know, if you have 15,000 people that have AR-15s, 12 of those people are likely to kill, and then school shootings happen, and then the children die. It's never about the Constitution. It's never about common sense. It's always about an agenda. They're always hiding behind.
Okay, so if you guys didn't catch what he said at the end there, his first statement was that, you know, these people, like, when we talk about the Second Amendment, it's very simple. It's easy. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. But you talk to them and they'll say, well, if you look at the stats and statistics, all these people with these weapons, certain armed people will die, and 12 of them are going to be children. And the whole crowd laughs. I think it's hilarious. What he unwittingly did there was demonstrate the very clear distinction between the two sides of the political aisle. That for conservatives, everything is short, quippy, punchy, to the point, and very surface level. It's like, well, it says shall not be infringed. You know, the only 3 words of the Constitution I know. So that's all I need. And then you say, okay, well, you know, James Madison died 200 years ago, who, you know, and he probably didn't mean what you're saying. Nope. Don't need any more. Okay, well, a lot of kids are dying. This is the number one cause of death are children of firearms. Don't care. Shall not be infringed. It just shows the difference between like a very surface level thinking and actual thinking. And he didn't know that's what he was demonstrating, but that's true. That's what I've seen. What do you think, Brenna?
Yeah, you know, when this thing happened, the first thing that went through my mind was I dread hearing their reactions.
Yeah,
because it's just the same old thing every time. You know, here in Tennessee, we had Tim Burchett.
Oh God! He's from Tennessee?
He's from my neck. He's from my neck of the woods. Yeah. And you know, he was the one that said, we can't fix it. We're not going to fix it. It can't be done. So, you know, I knew when this happened that their responses was going to be bad, and it was going to go back to the thoughts and prayers. And, you know, they were going to be more concerned about the Second Amendment rights than anything else. I mean, these are the same people that put bandages on their ears to be in solidarity with Trump, and are the same ones saying we can't fix it and saying crap like that. It's truly disgusting.
It really is like just like nah, I can't hear you, therefore it doesn't matter. Like that is the response, because I fight about this all the time. I am a little less pro gun control than some people on the left. It's an issue, one of the issues where I have shifted the most in my life, because on one end, clearly there's a problem. On the other end, well, there are many examples, especially of, you know, minority communities all around the world where guns get taken away from them and bad things happen. And like those two arguments are both true. And so I do think that total prohibition might not be the best move. It also might be. I really don't know. But what I do know is that I think the best way to solve the problem is treat it like we do smoking. Back in the 50s, over 50% of Americans smoked cigarettes on a daily basis, or a weekly basis, something like that, regular smokers. And it was far more ingrained in our culture than guns ever have been. Only about a third of Americans own guns. And we were able to take that and destroy it. Now I think only like 15% of Americans smoke. And we did that not through prohibition, because prohibition often doesn't work. We did it through a public health campaign where we very clearly educated people about the dangers of smoking, what it does to you, what it does to the people around you, what it does to your family, what it does to your kids. And by educating people about that from an early age, we were able to basically eliminate it in a generation. It's gone now. Like, we don't smoke anymore.
Mhm.
And we could do the same with guns, because the thing that I heard in that whole thing from that guy was, yeah, I don't care about the statistics. I have a right to guns. Well, they also say, I don't care about the statistics. I think a gun keeps me safe. And there's no evidence for that. In fact, mountains and mountains of evidence suggest that having a gun in your household increases your chance of being killed at all by like 7 times, and being killed by another person by about 3 times. It increases your chances of suicide, increases your chances of being killed by an intruder, increases your chances of being killed by someone in your home. And that's not just you, that's everyone in your family. And if you just had a public health campaign about that, I guarantee you we could eliminate a lot of the guns in this country in a generation. And that would be totally, syncopado with the Second Amendment. No, the government isn't coming and taking guns away from anyone who truly needs them. But there's a hell of a lot of guns in this country that are only circulating because people fucking love them, and like it's like a collector's item to them. They just want as many guns as possible. And when you have so many guns get into the hands of the wrong people. You have so many guns around, they get in the hands of a 14-year-old kid who definitely shouldn't have a fucking gun, and then he goes and kills people. And like the argument that they make is, oh, well, it's already illegal for the 14-year-old to have the gun. Yeah, but it wasn't illegal for whoever he got the gun from to have the gun. It's a lot harder to get if it's not everywhere around. If I was a kid right now, it would be much harder for me to get cigarettes than even when I was growing up. I could have easily stolen cigarettes when I was growing up because I had multiple family members that had them. Now, my nephew ain't going to find any cigarettes lying around. It's just not going to happen. And if you treat it the same exact way, I think it solves the problem for everyone. We just have to be honest with ourselves about what guns are and what they do. And a lot of people like that guy don't want to be honest with themselves.
I hear you, John, but how about this? Say we arm the teachers. Maybe that will solve the problem. Maybe we just give every teacher a firearm and that'll take care of everything. They'll be good to go. I mean, that's what the conservatives want, right? That's going to solve the school shootings. We turn every school into a goddamn fortress with razor wire and guns in every classroom. And I want to put a couple of things. So you're right about the culture with cigarettes. And I've seen that it's over my lifetime, because when I was a kid, there were still smoking sections in restaurants, which, listen, I was not a bright child, but I said that makes no sense. What are you talking about? Smoking section? This stuff travels through the air. It's insane. I never understood the smoking section thing. But even
when I was a kid, they still had those.
Yeah. It's like, it's weird, right? It's like, and so also, okay, how about this? You see these, John? All right, I remember cigarette machines. Do you ever see those? Like cigarette vending machines? You could
yep.
Yeah, that was outside. You never see that anymore. And I remember buying candy cigarettes from the store. Like I would go to a gas station. You could buy a candy. They look like little chalk, and you could just buy the cigarettes. And looking back on it now, I was like, oh, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
They're still candy cigarettes to children. I see why. I'm surprised that they still get away with Big League Chew. Honestly, I'm still surprised that's still a thing. And Kyle brought up something here. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. How are police not bigger advocates for gun control? This is interesting. So a couple of years ago. 2 years ago, the community action agency I was working with, we were fighting against this bill that was going through the Indiana General Assembly. It was for constitutional carry. You're seeing these bills pop up across the nation in several states. And what constitutional carry is, it means that you can have a handgun without a permit. Like you don't have to take any classes. You don't need a license for it. And I think it's for concealed carry. I think concealed carry, you can just do that without, getting registered for it. The cops were very much against it. The cops for the first time, I saw the cops on our side, actually testifying against, because if you're, we lost John, but if you're in law enforcement and, you're trying to stop people from committing crimes and you don't want everyone in the city to have a gun, that's going to be terrifying. So in some cases they are, but in a lot of cases they aren't. And smoking healthcare crisis. Yep, that's true. Candy cigs were fire. Are you trying to get me banned? Tree, stop. You're trying to get this channel shut down. And I always wonder the best way to address such proud stupidity. Arm the teachers, arm the kids. I know. The arm the teachers one is just it without fail. It comes up. It without fail. I saw. Welcome back, John. I saw Kevin Sorbo talk about today that we just need to give the teachers guns. We gotta tell these people that they need to be ready to shoot a child. Every time they go into school. Which just I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, I just want to point out there was a time when I did see the cops on the right side. But yeah, as we go. But all right. I think that does it for us today, folks. John, we want to go to. John frozen? I think he is. All right. Well. Oh well, this is my first time doing the first part of the intro. I don't know if I can do it, but let's unless you had any more closing thoughts, Brandon.
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a great conversation. I always enjoy talking with you, and I really loved that point about the cigarettes. I'd never really thought about it that way. I do remember when I was a kid. Back when I was a kid, I could actually ride my bike down to the store and get cigarettes for my grandmother.
What?
And they would just let me have them. Like, here you go, take them home to your mama, And so I definitely remember. I had the same thought you did back in those days about the smoking section. I was like, well, wait a minute, I can still smell it from where I'm sitting. But,
absurd. Well, John, look who had to resort to the phone this time. Look who
I know.
That's so funny.
And I literally also cannot hear you this time.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, so Breno, yesterday my audio went out right at the end of the show. And so John was closing it up and I couldn't hear anything he said. So tell John to do the outro. So we're going to try this. This is going to be tricky, but John will do the outro and then he'll toss it to you. And all
right, guys. Thank you so much for watching this show. If I look a little bit different right now, it's because I'm having technical difficulties. But I'm very still much appreciating that you watched all the way to the end of the episode. And if you are like me, then every time Tennessee Brando says a word beginning with WH, you get a little hit of dopamine. And you might want to get that hit again. So, Tennessee Brando, in case anyone wants to see you somewhere else, where can they find you?
Oh, well, appreciate that. I'm on YouTube as a Tennessee Brando, Facebook, pretty much everywhere on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. It's TN_Brando. And I only have those accounts. There are so many fake accounts out there of me now and so many imposters running scams. Don't fall for any of those. My official pages are out there and most of my content is on YouTube, but I put it everywhere else too. I really appreciate you guys for having me on.
Thanks so much, man. We really appreciate you, Brandon. Listen, everyone, we appreciate you watching the entire show. Feel free to check us out on YouTube, on TikTok. Your right to watch our content shall not be infringed. You can do it anytime you want. I also want to speak for John. He wanted to pass along a message that TJ Whitehead, powers taken, not given, is the alpha and the omega of the show, the beginning and the end. He controls everything. He is the brains. He is the brawn. This is his brainchild. John just wanted to pass the best compliments possible, and I'm sure you all agree. So we'll catch you guys later next time. Let's see if the sound comes back.